Can the GTX 1070 still play games? Well, we're gonna put it to the test here today because it's almost 10 years old. This graphics card was released in June of 2016. With 8 gigabytes of VRAM, it was a super popular card, and for a long time now, it's still been able to rock games. However, unfortunately, Nvidia decided to drop driver support for their 10 series cards, so it will no longer receive those first day game updates. So we're gonna throw it in some benchmarks against some of the most popular games that people are playing, see how it still holds up. But to make this as realistic as possible, we are going to use the Ryzen 5 3600 and 32 gigabytes of RAM. So that's most likely around the CPU horsepower that most people are going to be using with this graphics card. So let's hop into it. We're going to kick things off with the popular Cyberpunk 2077. Now we tested this at 1080p with the high settings and we turned off all the upscaling, no frame generation, got around like 47 FPS. Now if you want to use some upscaling and just use the default high settings, you can get a pretty solid like 64 FPS, but I know some people are just totally against upscaling in general. So if you turn off all the upscaling and you lower the settings down to low settings, you can get 67. Then we're going to hop over to Arc Raiders, super popular right now, and it's the most optimized UE5 game that I've seen and that I've personally tested. Like, it's not even close. Because just for fun, I like to take these old GPUs and test it at 1440p on Arc Raiders because it's so well optimized, and at low settings with no upscaling, we got almost 60 FPS. That's wild to me. And if you turn FSR down to quality, you can get like 75 or 80 FPS, and you can get over 100 with frame gen. But I know not everyone has a 1440p monitor, so we also tested it at 1080p low settings, and we got like 70 to 80 FPS. With FSR set to quality, you got 110 to 115, and with frame generation, you pushed like 130 to 150. The most optimized game we've seen. More developers, please take notes. I'm talking to you, Borderlands 4 guy. We didn't test Borderlands 4, by the way, but anyway, moving on to the popular Black Ops 7. That is super sweaty, but supposedly, depending on what articles you read, it's a pretty good game. We tested it at 1080p medium settings, no upscaling, and we got a pretty solid 60 FPS. Every now and then it would drop below that, but if you take FSR and you set it to quality, you get like 80 or 90 FPS, and if you use frame gen, you can get around like 120. But don't worry, we also tested the popular Battlefield 6, which apparently has a cheating problem, or so, you know, you can't trust all the articles these days. We tested it at 1080p low settings as well, and it almost got 60 FPS, but it was more around like 55-ish. But again, if you set FSR to quality, you can get 70 or 80 FPS, and frame gen gets you close to 120. Now, before we talk about how much it costs and whether or not we think it's actually worth it, we still need to try some esports games. Now, with esports games, they rely a little bit more on the CPU than the GPU, and you could probably get more FPS than what we're about to show you if you used a stronger CPU. But again, we wanted a realistic comparison. So first up, we tried CS2. It is slightly more demanding than it used to be, but still a pretty easy to run game. Tested it at 1440p, 1080p, and a couple of different 4x3 resolutions, and we got pretty much the same FPS every single time. Anywhere from like 150 to 180. Sometimes we would hit 200, but it wouldn't stay there very long. So overall, it was a pretty solid experience. I think you would have fun with it, but a little bit disappointing in my opinion. But I think that's more to do with the CPU than anything else. And last but not least, we had to try good old Fortnite. The new season is a banger. Chapter 7 Fortnite, we tested it at DX12 and performance mode. DX12, we did try 1440p just because I'm a personal fan of 1440p monitors over 1080p monitors just because of how clear they look and you can see more. And we got anywhere from like 130 to 150 FPS. But if you drop that down to 1080p on DirectX 12, all low settings, by the way, I'm not sure I said that earlier, but all low settings, we got like 190-ish FPS. Sometimes it would hit 200, but most of the time it was in that 180, 190 mark. But performance mode is where you're going to want to be with this graphics card for sure. And with the Ryzen 5 3600, whether you're 1440p or 1080p, you're going to be roughly about the same. 1080p might give you 5 to 10 more FPS, but you're going to be around 190 to 215, somewhere around in there. And it's a super smooth experience. You can pick up this graphics card on places like eBay for anywhere from $70 to like $85, but you got the whole driver thing. If you're playing esports, it's probably not a big deal, but if you want to play AAA titles, you might want to go check out this GPU.